Today marks 75 years since the beginning of the end of the Second World War and the disappearance of the German leader Adolf Hitler. Now, Hitler, who had previously served the German army in the First World War as a lance corporal, was injured during the war and he had to go into a hospital to recover. While Hitler was in the hospital, he heard the news that Germany had surrendered to the Allies in the First World War on the 11th of November 1918. This didn't go down well with Hitler. He found it a total personal insult to himself, to the people of Germany, and to the fatherland. Later on in 1919, we had the Treaty of Versailles, which resulted in the demilitarization of Germany. And looking at how Hitler found the surrender and the demilitarization as insults to Germany as a whole and Germany's people, we can see why 20 years after the First World War ended, the Second World War began. Hitler moved into a political career. He became the leader of the Nazi Party in July 1921, and he stayed in that position right up until 1945. In 1934, Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany. And that while he was in that role, the name later got changed to the Führer of Germany. Now, what's really interesting here is it was the Nazis who started the Second World War on the 1st of September 1939. They invaded Poland, but Poland had a treaty with Great Britain and with France that said that if Poland went to war or she was invaded, that Britain and France would go and join her. So true to the treaty, on the 3rd of September 1939, Britain and France went to the Second World War. As a result of Britain joining the war, Australia was also at war on the 3rd of September. What's interesting is the fighting didn't happen straight away. There was a lag between the declaration of war and when the conflict started. So on the 17th of September 1939, the Soviet Union, governed by Joseph Stalin, and their Red Army invaded Poland on the other side to where Germany had invaded them. As the war progressed, Germany kept fighting the Allied forces and the Reds later on. In 1941, on the 7th of December, the Pacific Theatre of War started when the Japanese bombed the fleet of US naval ships at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Now, 4 days afterwards, on the 11th of December, Hitler then declared war on the United States, resulting in America being fighting in both theatres of war, not only in the Pacific where they had been attacked by the Japanese, but then also in Europe. Now, between 1939, which is the start of the war, and 1945, which is the end, there were numerous attempts made on Adolf Hitler's life, but most of them came from within his own country, not outside assassination attempts. In 1944, there was Operation Overlord, which happened on the 6th of June, or the D-Day landings, as it's also known. Now, what many officers in the Nazi army could see was that if Hitler were to remain in power, then it would be the fall of the Nazi Empire and the fall of the Third Reich. Now, German officers thought that if someone would take his place, that this would be different and that Germany would be able to continue fighting. By late 1944, the Red Army and the Allies had surrounded Germany. So the Allies were coming up from the side of France, and then the Reds were coming in from the other side, so they were completely surrounded, and this happened in the First World War too. Now, if we go and have a look at what was happening in 1945, it was, the end of the war, things were a little bit hectic. On the 16th of April 1945, the Battle of Berlin started. This is where the Reds were very, very close, as were the Allies, and they were trying to get to Hitler. On the 20th of April, it was the last time Hitler was actually seen. Now, in the Reich Chancellery, there was an underground bunker, and it was called the Führerbunker. So on the 20th of April was the last time Hitler was seen outside the bunker. because what he was doing that day was he was awarding Iron Crosses to boys in the Hitler Youth who were fighting to defend Berlin against the Reds. On the 22nd of April, Hitler was informed that the Reds had now entered Berlin and were advancing on the bunker. On the 23rd, Berlin was surrounded by the Red Army, and the people of the city had been told to get whatever they could to fight the Reds. On the 25th of April, Hermann Göring thought that being as Adolf Hitler was isolated in Berlin in the bunker, he could no longer lead the Nazi party, and he thought that he should be the leader now. This did not go down well with Hitler, and Hitler had him arrested. On the 28th of April, Hitler found out that Heinrich Himmler who had left Berlin prior to that day, he left on the 20th of April, was talking with the Western allies of the United States and Great Britain about a surrender, and Hitler was not prepared to surrender Germany for a second time. So he ordered Himmler to be arrested as well. At midnight on the 28th to 29th of April 1945, Hitler married Eva Braun, who had been his longtime partner in the Führerbunker in the civil ceremony. On the 30th of April, Hitler disappeared from public life. Now, the evidence is a little bit murky here. There is evidence to suggest that Hitler committed suicide in the bunker after shooting himself in the head when the Red Army was only 2 blocks away from the Führerbunker, and his wife chewed on a cyanide tablet so that she too would also die. However, when they found the remains that were meant to be that of Hitler, when the Soviet Union got them, they have since done testing on the skull that they have, and it actually is shown through DNA, genetic testing, that it is female. It has 2 X chromosomes, not an X and a Y. So 2 X's makes you female, an X and a Y makes you male, okay? So the skull is a female, but it does have a bullet wound. There is also the possibility that Hitler made it out of Berlin. He was not seen in public since the 20th of April, which happened to be his birthday. Many highly ranked Nazi officers, some of them were in Hitler's private circle, escaped at the end of the Second World War and ended up in South America, in places like Argentina. There is a possibility that Hitler himself could have made it to Argentina, as there were escape routes for Nazis to get out of Germany. Either way, we will never know the full story as to what happened to Hitler, but we can say for certain that on the 30th of April 1945, Hitler left public life. On the 2nd of May 1945, Berlin surrendered. Not long after that, the Second World War ended in Europe, and soon after, the Pacific Theatre of War also came to an end.